Hey, everybody, and welcome to Nicole Sauce's Thought of the Walk. Look, I'm not walking. That's right. It is kind of miserable out there, and I did not want to record while being miserable out there. That does not mean I don't get to go for a walk today. It just means I didn't want to basically expose my phone to a bunch of water. So today I wanted to talk to you about purpose. And this idea came to me when I was visiting some friends this week, and I looked to the left of the sink, and there was a little stand that holds a tube of toothpaste and a tube of toothpaste in it. And it's one that makes it so it just squeezes out from the bottom. It made me think about stuff and decluttering. And does this bring you joy? And all the stuff that we talk about, when you're deciding what does stay in your house and what does not. And as a person who's a homesteader, and I have become much more purposeful in how I prepare for the world. So one might call me a prepper. Yep. I have 6 months of supplies on hand, and I restock about every 3 months. I'm in a restocking month right now. We have supply chain issues. So sometimes I don't find the things that I'm supposed to resupply, but because I have a 6-month cushion, then it's not a big deal if there's not, laundry detergent or toilet paper or mustard. Mustard is one of the things this month. So that gives me a lot of power and stability. And it means I don't need to spend $5 on a $2 mustard, for example, because they're $5 right now. I don't know if they're $5 right now, but let's pretend that they're $5 right now. But then when you're a prepper, the temptation is to buy things cheap and stock up. And if you stock up beyond a certain threshold, which only you can decide what that is, you end up with shit everywhere. Like shit everywhere. You can't put it away. And when you can't put it away, you have clutter in your life. And when you have clutter in your life, there's an emotional impact on that makes you bring more clutter into your life, be less motivated to put things where they need to go or to have order. And then when you need your mustard, you can't find your mustard. So you buy a mustard. See how that that's unhealthy prepping. Healthy prepping is having just a process where things go through. And my inventory process is something I've talked about in other videos. And I have a webinar for members at the Living Free in Tennessee website that I gave about about pantry management 101. We go over what to do if you live in a small space, what to do if you live in a big space, and how to manage your inventory in a way that works really well with a kinesthetic, like person who needs to touch stuff and see stuff and isn't necessarily going to enter it in a spreadsheet, right? And those skills are great. But purpose. Does everything in your life have a purpose? When I saw that toothpaste stand, I thought, you know what? That's a really cool thing. There is space for it to be tidy. It fulfills a purpose where it's a stand for the toothpaste, and it squeezes the paste out from the bottom. It's tidy, and it's a thing that gets used a couple of times a day by that person, right? That toothpaste holder has a purpose. It's being used for its purpose, and it's not creating additional problems. And then I thought about what we've been doing here. I've been slowly moving out of rooms in my house, deep cleaning them and moving back in because I've been here for 15 years. And after 15 years, there is some, well, let's be honest, there's some dirt buildup. All like the closets behind me are white, but I see some dust buildup there. And you have to like scrub out the little things, or up around the top of my room. It's crown molding, and between that and the ceiling, there's dust buildup. And then that dust falls down and makes things dirtier. And as part of that moving out of rooms and moving back in, of course, I'm purging. Might as well get rid of crap that I'm not using. And so there have been multiple loads to Goodwill, and I've had things for sale. If they don't sell within a week, they go to Goodwill. Just getting rid of things I'm not using. And as a prepper, it kind of hurts your heart a little bit when you get rid of something that could be useful. Like there's a blender, a beer bottle capper, and a wine corker that I had for sale on Facebook that don't belong to me, because the Tactical Redneck's also purging his stuff. But he brought that up for me to bring to Goodwill. I'm like, well, let's see if we can get $5. Turns out I can't get $5 for it. Hasn't sold in 2 weeks, and I haven't been able to go to Goodwill because of the ice. So it's still for sale, but By next Tuesday, that's not going to be for sale anymore, right? And that's great. It'll be purged from our lives, but it's hard to get rid of a blender because I have a blender, but what if my blender breaks? Then there's a backup blender for free that I could just keep around. And, two is one and one is none. Right? Maybe, but maybe not. There are things I keep two is one is none of. Coffee is very important in my life. Those of you who follow me, sometimes the beans come out, hollow roast coffee. That's right. I roast coffee. I love coffee. I make coffee almost every day and drink it. If my coffee maker breaks, I want to still be able to make coffee. Now, anybody, if you can grind your coffee, you can just put the coffee in the water and like drink through the grounds. And there are different ways to try to separate the grounds from the water. So it's not like you couldn't drink coffee, but I want to enjoy my coffee. And when I got my current coffee maker, I had a pretty good espresso machine. And that's in a box. That is my two is one is none. Three is for me, though. I have a coffee cone. I also have a percolator for camping. I have 4 things for coffee. Coffee serves a purpose in my life that's beyond the caffeine. If I drink decaf coffee, which does not taste as good, but fresh roasted decaf does taste better than the crap decaf you get at the grocery store. It's still fulfilling this purpose, and it's an emotional purpose. It's that moment of silence in the morning where I'm doing something luxurious for myself. It's not like super expensive caviar, luxurious, but it's not an insignificant investment of time, energy, and yes, money in the coffee beans and the roasting. And I enjoy this cup. I get some silence. I think about my day. I think about the world. I have the cup of coffee. So coffee serves a purpose. To support coffee, I like really good coffee. I particularly like espresso. So I have 2 ways to make espresso, and 1 travel way to make coffee and 1 camping way to make a lot of coffee if people are there. So I can make coffee, and I'm not getting rid of that stuff. Every one of those coffee makers gets used at least 1 time a year, often more than 1 time a year. And that is my point. You're like, what is she talking about? Does everything in your house serve a purpose? Those things do. But you know what doesn't necessarily serve a purpose that I need in my house? Go to my junk drawer, and there is a bag of things that look important, look like they go to something, and they are in the bag. They're in a Ziploc bag. It's the stuff you don't know what it is. You know what I'm talking about. The stuff you don't know what it is, but it looks important. In fact, the bag has in Sharpie looks important and the date. Because if a year from that date, I still haven't needed the things that look important in that bag, then the only purpose those items have served by staying in my life is that they look important. And that's not a purpose I want to support. So if you're struggling with decluttering, instead of asking yourself, does this pen bring me joy? Because this pen does not bring me joy, but it serves a purpose in my life. Ask yourself, does it serve the purpose? Be honest about what that purpose is. And then ask yourself, do I need this pen to serve that purpose? And if the purpose is that it looks important, I don't know. I have other things in my life, like this magnifying glass. This magnifying glass does bring me joy. It is a magnifying glass. My dad made the handle because the handle was broken when he found it in my grandmother's things. This magnifying glass was something that I used when I was a kid to start fires by focusing the sun on it. And it belonged to my grandparents. And when my grandma died, I said, the one thing I'd really like to have is that magnifying glass. And he couldn't find it for a year. And then when he found it, the wood handle was broken. So he made this like sort of steampunk style metal handle, and he mailed me the magnifying glass. And the purpose this serves is an emotional one. It's a memory of my grandparents and my childhood. It reminds me that the world is kind of cool, that you can start a fire just by concentrating the sun's rays on something. So if I ever need to start a fire and don't have like the 9 other ways I can start a fire, I can start a fire with this. But as I'm getting older and my eyes are getting better, that's sarcasm emoji in case you couldn't catch it. This is starting to serve a different purpose. I'm actually using this thing to read text. In particular, text on devices where they're like, what's the model number? And I'm like, for hell if I know, I can't read it. And it's in like 4-point font. This serves a purpose. Other people take pictures of stuff. This serves a purpose in my life of being visually, aesthetically pleasing. It does bring me happy memories. And now I actually use it to read stuff. So look around. Does everything in your house serve a purpose? Do you have things that have been sitting there for 5 or 6 or 10 or 15 years that you thought they served a purpose? And maybe the purpose they serve is grinding flour. I have a flour grinder. I haven't used it in 2 years. I don't eat bread. I don't eat wheat. I don't eat grains. The only reason I was even grinding flour 2 years ago is they couldn't get flour in California, and I was grinding the wheat I have stored and sending it to California to my mom and my sister who do, and they were using it to bake bread. Should I keep that flour grinder? I mean, I still have wheat stored. Till it's gone, I'll have it stored. It's stored for freaking ever, right? And it is something I can cook into a cereal if I actually needed the calories, or I can give it to people when times are tough if they need it, like I did with my family. But do I really need, what purpose does that flour grinder really serve? Well, the answer to that question is it doesn't. It does not serve a purpose besides taking up space and being a end of the world backup plan to a backup plan for other people who don't live here. Well, then the hard decision is, do I need the flour grinder? Hell no, I don't. That thing's going to be for sale. It's actually Tactical Rednecks. He let me use it because he wasn't using it. Now we might as well sell it because nobody here eats flour, right? And if I ever need to grind flour, you know what grinds flour for me? I have a really nice blender, by the way. My blender grinds flour. If I need 1 cup of flour, which is about the volume I would need, I can grind that flour. And if my family ends up needing flour again, they're going to have to figure out how to grind the flour in California because I'm not keeping it in my life because the only purpose it serves is to take up space where something that I use every day or use on the regular or actually brings me happiness and happy memories could be. So that's my little tirade on, do the things in your life have a purpose, and what is that purpose? When you know what the purpose is and you're honest about it, you can decide if you should keep them. Makes the whole purge thing and the whole ongoing we're always organizing ourselves thing way easier. I hope you like this thought of the walk. If you did, give my channel a follow and a like, maybe share it with somebody else. And if you didn't know it, I do an audio podcast 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's all available at livingfreeintennessee.com. Or if you have a podcatcher on your phone, like a podcast player, I'm there too. Just search for Living Free in Tennessee. That's me. It's a cowboy hat and a microphone that looks like a corn cob. Anyway, I appreciate you all tuning in. We'll be back with another Thought of the Walk in a couple of days.